Hello, everyone. Good Tuesday evening. Welcome into the stream. Got a lot to talk about tonight. What you see next to me, this is Capitol Hill. We've got some snow falling in the DC area. So just figured I'd go ahead and throw this up here for now while we kind of wait, give some time for everyone to filter on in, and expecting a good one tonight. I think we'll probably go for maybe an hour and a half or so, probably till about 9. I'll be honest with y'all, I have not eaten today really at all. So um, yeah, I might seem a little sluggish, and I might start munching on this bag of food next to me at some point. But luckily, I have a guest speaker tonight who's going to help me get on through this one. We'll have Brady back on, who we've had on the channel many a times now. Also, Brady, I don't have you brought in yet, but if you could go ahead and type in the chat your YouTube, which I also have linked in the description, and if you could go ahead and link our Twitters so people can submit pictures, and I'll talk about that in a second, everybody. But Brady can hear me behind the scenes. So, all right, awesome. Also have a super chat already from Ann Philbeck, I believe is how you say that. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. And I'm also going to set a goal. Let me do it first, and then I'll kind of tell you what the goal is going to be. But we are going to set a little bit of a super chat goal tonight. Just whenever we have these super busy nights, it's, I think, easier to kind of do this. Also, super chats will have priority and questions being answered. Again, it's just it's such a busy pattern, and there's so much to talk about that unfortunately I might not be able to get to every question. Now, if we have time, obviously we will. But super chats, as always, get priority on the questions. And if you put a super chat, definitely give a question. I don't want you to throw money in there and then not like get anything back out of it. So definitely do so. And of course, everyone, let me know where you're watching from. I imagine you can hear me loud and clear. If you can't, though, for some reason, let me know. And we'll get going tonight. Also, I know I keep saying a whole bunch of things here, but go ahead and tag me or Brady on Twitter. BGWX is his handle. Mine is, I think, literally just GMingle. Both of those should be linked in the chat. I think Brady is doing that right now, and I will go ahead and pin some of these for you, Brady. Although I think you might be able to as well if you're a moderator. I don't know, but go ahead, tag us in your photos, videos, pictures, and we'll put them on stream live here for everyone to see. So it would definitely be super fun stuff. All right, I'm going to type something up here. All right, while I'm typing this, Brady, do you want to go ahead and kind of reintroduce yourself for like the third or fourth time? I know you've kind of been on the channel a couple times here, but definitely want to give you your moment to shine.
Yep. Again, welcome everybody. Brady here from BGWX. I put my link to the YouTube, and I'm putting our Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, handles in there right now as well. Again, I specifically more focus again along Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, and even to the Southeast as well a little bit. But I live up here in Massachusetts, so just like Gerald lives in the South, he gets focused there. I have a lot of people up here in the Northeast, so do a lot of in-depth breakdowns and for people that really love weather and meteorology and really love kind of the science and are interested in figuring out the upcoming storms. That's really kind of where I specialize, and we do a lot in that. And it's awesome to be here again, breaking down winter weather, Gerald. I mean, whenever we're doing this and we get to break it down, it means it's active time. So it's awesome. It's awesome right now.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I'll be honest, everyone, I am exhausted the way that 2025 has started. But I know come April, whenever we're done with snow, and be like, man, I kind of wish I was exhausted again. And we were talking about snow all the time, so it's kind of one of those, just one of those things. But definitely tag us on Twitter. Also, I should have my phone nice and charged, so if you want to tag me on like Facebook or Instagram or something like that, or just send me a DM on one of those platforms, I could probably pull it up there as well. Alrighty, cool. All right, so let's see if this works. We'll go ahead and hit the start button on it. All right, so I just started a goal on the stream. If we can get 10 donations tonight, I think the criteria is like $5 or something like that, then we'll break down big storm potential next week. Obviously, tonight, the focus will be what's happening now in the Mid-Atlantic and what is on the way come tomorrow and into Thursday, another big storm, and then another storm later this week, and that with severe weather potential and winter weather potential. But if we hit the chat goal tonight, then we will also discuss what I think could be a big time storm right around next Tuesday, Wednesday for areas much further south. So again, if we get there, we'll break that down. We've got an hour to do it, so we'll break down all the other fun stuff here ongoing to start it, and then we will get on that way. All right, so I think we've given enough time for everyone to filter on in here. Looks like we've got people watching, so that is definitely good to see. Everyone, again, let me know where you're watching from and all of that fun stuff. And Brady, if you see any questions or anything, obviously jump on in, answer them, because yeah, I don't know, just yeah.
You're doing great. You're doing great, Gerald.
All right, cool. Okay, so let's go ahead and start breaking down what's happening out there right now. So we've got a big time winter storm ongoing into portions of the mid-Atlantic, back through portions of the Ohio Valley. From what I saw, some of the reports, I don't know if you have any of the reports kind of on hand on how much snow has fallen, but I think we were already crossed like half a foot in some places. Kind of sprinkled in here through Virginia. West Virginia's gotten absolutely clobbered, the southern mountains here, kind of into the Covington area, Lewisburg, kind of this part up near Snowshoe, big ski resort up there, definitely getting some good snow. So overall, a pretty good event. And then look at all this heavy rain back down into Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, into the Carolinas, getting some rain. Even had some ice earlier in the Greensboro area. We've got ice on going into the mountains of North Carolina, Asheville, Boone, Wilkesboro. So just a big old mess. And this is one we've been talking about for a while, Brady. We kind of have really been, I'd say, talking about this one for at least a week or so. And it is definitely kind of coming to light here. So what are kind of your thoughts on the verification of the storm so far?
So far, playing out well. You were wondering about snowfall totals. I actually got them. I got them right now. We in the mountains, Virginia. We've seen a lot of 6 to 12 inch totals out there, and across even into southern Virginia, we've actually had some snowfall as well. But DC, South DC Metro, about 3 to 6 inches of snow has fallen so far. And then we're going to continue to see this push north and east to maybe even New York City, Long Island, Philadelphia, coastal Jersey, and then even into coastal southern New England as well. There's going to be some snow with this, and definitely going to be a close call in New York City, Long Island as well. But so far, playing out pretty well. Kind of seeing two different separate areas of banding set up so far, and specifically right along there, that area of frontogenesis by just south of DC, really, and extending into the DC metro. It's causing a lot of heavy snowfall rates, 1 to 2 inch per hour rates, and it definitely a messy evening commute for people out there for sure. I believe they had early dismissals, at least at a minimum. You'd have to actually, anybody can let us know what they did for schools today across DC and Virginia. So, but so far, definitely playing out. A lot of moisture plume again with that right tapping into the Gulf and off the Atlantic. So definitely a significant again mid-Atlantic snowstorm for pretty good winter for them too, Gerald, for sure at this point.
Yeah, I mentioned that in my video a day or two ago. We had the big storm in here the first week of January, or like the end of the first week of January, that time frame. And this one, not that unsimilar for like DC, Charlottesville, Richmond, areas like that. I think this one's actually pretty close. Now, a lot more rain and all to the south with this one, with kind of this overrunning pattern. But we've got a couple super chats in here. Beth with the super chat. So thank you, Beth. Appreciate that. And then we also have, let's see if I can find it, a GM Weather supporter. So that's great. We love that name. Says, hello, Gerald. You are my favorite YouTuber. Also watching from Southwest Virginia. Just rain and sleet. Well, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the support, literally in your name. And thanks for the report as well. Awesome. Appreciate that. So again, folks, this is what we're seeing out there right now. It's definitely an active one, and the craziest thing is it's going to be even more active as we go ahead into time. This is kind of just an appetizer event. We're going to zoom out a little bit and we look back west, the early stages of our next storm getting its act together back into Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, into portions of Colorado, also seeing that active weather. So definitely just a crazy pattern, one that is going to kind of feel like a blur, I think, by the end of it. Now, watches, warnings, advisories, current alerts, the map is full for sure. We've got winter storm warnings in the pink, winter weather advisories in the purple, and then flood watches in the green. And anytime you get a flood watch touching a winter storm warning, you know that that winter storm is going to have a lot of precipitation to work with. So over southwestern Virginia, areas in and around southern West Virginia, yeah, you've got flooding on one side of the apps, and then you've got that snow and ice on the other side. So obviously a lot of precipitation we're working with. And another thing to mention, not being talked a lot about, but we have a severe weather threat down here tomorrow, including a notable tornado threat that we'll need to discuss a little bit tonight. Brady, the kind of funny thing is you look at this and you're thinking, all right, it's active, but there's 3 separate major storms that are going to cross the entire country on the map. This is storm 1. This is storm number two. And then kind of the hidden gem here is storm number three. Look at California with all the green and the pink. I mean, it's just it's a crazy pattern. What is kind of your thoughts on what's just driving the pattern in general to be so active across the entire country?
Yeah, if you pull up the just a 500 millibar height, if you get a 500 millibar height chart for me, pretty simple to kind of break down here. It's just an active. I mean, we can even go back to if you have the 500 height instead of vort,
Oh,
potentially
gotcha.
that would
Yeah.
work great.
You want the
Um,
anomaly map?
Oh yeah. Fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you.
There.
Again, it's just a really pretty simple here. You see the ridging that we have going on continuously over in our southeast ridge continuously being present here across the southwest Atlantic and into the Gulf, and that's just a continuous supply of moistures for storms to form along that area. And we're dropping in colder air from the north, and so we're just continue. You can see that blue. That's that troughing dropping in from the north that's continuously dropping in storms here across the western US. And so it's just an active, fast flow pattern where that injection of warm air from the south is meeting that injection of cold air from the north. And that's where we're creating thermodynamically, big word, just to say temperature. We're creating an interesting, we're creating a strong temperature gradient, meaning the contrast in temperature. And that's what's driving this active storm pattern basically across the central and the eastern US and especially northeast mid Atlantic and maybe even the south will have a chance upcoming here into the mid south, maybe. But definitely a continuous active pattern that's not going to stop, too. It's going to continue probably through February. So you and I are going to be pretty busy here, Gerald. Fortunately and unfortunately for our mental psyche, but fortunately for our love for weather, we're gonna be pretty busy here upcoming.
Yeah, it's nonstop, and I mentioned that at the start of the month. I told all the people that watch the channel, I said it's about to get pretty crazy, and it's exactly what's happened. And yeah, there's not really end in sight in February now. Maybe like the last couple of days of February, like the last week, or not even the week, really just like quite literally the last couple of days. But even here, like I'm going all the way out of time, and this is the GFS. It just keeps on going crazy through the end of the month with this
Yeah,
active pattern. So that's definitely pretty crazy stuff to see for sure.
yeah, just continuously active. It's not stopping anytime soon. Favorable teleconnections, as well. Fancy word for just pieces of the atmosphere that also suggest it's gonna continue. It's not just models showing it, but there's actual indicators suggesting it's gonna continue to be active, maybe even to March possibly. So, like I said, we're gonna be busy continuing. You and I for sure upcoming here.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is a lot of people are going to get in on it. I know right now, Virginia's getting clobbered. Tomorrow, Kansas City up through Chicago is going to get clobbered. This weekend, a little bit of everybody will get clobbered by different types of active weather. But I think next week we're going to get a bit of a shift south in the track. So folks in Tennessee, Kentucky, maybe even Arkansas, potentially portions of the Carolinas who are maybe hoping for some winter weather, you may finally get in on the action then. And again, that's what we'll potentially talk about here towards the end of the stream. But before we get there, let's time out the rest of this storm. We'll go ahead and I don't think we need to get super in depth on the upper level ingredients for our ongoing storm. Let's just kind of time it out for you and talk totals. And then we'll get more in depth on the kind of upper levels and what's driving our storm tomorrow. So that'll kind of be the game plan here. All right. So this is basically right now, this is 8 p.m. tonight. So, basically, like I said, right now we've got this shield of snow going on from really, I think it's already snowing probably up in Philly. Do we have any reports out of Philly, Brady? I don't know if you got actually, no, we can pull MPing on our own. We have MPing pulled up. So
Some snow
if I can find
reports
that.
in the it's snowing in the Philly area for sure. No major accumulation quite yet.
Gotcha. Yeah. So here's MPing, everybody. This basically just verifies what Brady just said. We've got snow in Philly. We've got snow in southern Jersey, the Delmarva. So just really beginning for folks up here and not a huge event. I'll say, unfortunately for Philadelphia, you've kind of been right in between multiple storms. You've kind of gotten the good side of one, the not great side of another. And then just you haven't really been clobbered yet. So we'll see if that changes next week. But what was it? Last week, you kind of had the snow to ice transition. Today, you're a little too far north for a big storm. Just kind of, an unfortunate track for you folks there, but still getting snow nonetheless. You can see that here on the map with those blue little dots showing up. That is snow. And definitely, looking to be pretty good here through portions of the Northeast. So that'll take us back to our map. I think we have another super chat. Joseph Wilson says, "Keep up the good work." I appreciate it, Joseph. So thank you. And Nick also says, "Long Island, it is snowing." So helpful there as well. Again, folks, if you're seeing snow out there, let us know where you are and how much you're seeing. If you already have accumulation, let us know how much accumulation. Definitely put all that in the chat. Helps us to kind of continue to gauge how radar is verifying with the real world, because it's just a tool. It is not the end all be all. All right, so we'll time it out this evening. Here we go. That snow shield continuing off towards the north and east here. Moving on through the northern mid-Atlantic, through Maryland, Delaware, again, southern Jersey. I think even Long Island, we already have, like I said, somebody saying we're going to get some snow there. Could get a good little burst of snow. I'll kind of stop it here. This is around 11 o'clock tonight, midnight. I guess, I said we weren't going to, but we can go ahead and talk a little bit about the ingredients here, Brady. What kind of rates do you expect, I guess, is the best question for this kind of corridor of snow that we're seeing on the map. And this is the NAM, by the way, everybody, I'm showing for around 11 o'clock tonight.
Yep. So, like you mentioned, the heaviest snow totals likely will remain across. We're not going to see any, double-digit snowfall totals up north here, but currently we have about a half inch to an inch of snow so far in reports around the Philly area. You'll continue. You'll probably stack up another, 1 or 2 inches more, maybe a little bit more some areas if you're lucky. But interesting setup here tonight across New York City and Long Island, especially Long Island here. Again, a lot of people obviously live in New York City and Long Island, so interesting setup here where we talked about our 850. Gerald, if you don't mind actually bringing up the
Yeah.
SPC meso analysis page and go into 700 millibar FGEM, or you can keep it on the NAM. It doesn't matter. Either one works.
Now, let me, I'll pull up the SBC because that's a website I don't use very often. So,
Yeah, yeah. So
um,
it's and so interesting setup we have going on here where we talked about, remember I mentioned 850 millibars, so a little bit higher up in the atmosphere. That's where we're seeing convergence happening, and we're seeing strong lift associated with this storm, and that's producing those heavy snowfall rates
actually,
across.
Brady, sorry, will you run me one more time what map? I know SPC, I'm
Go
under
to
winter
upper
weather.
air, go to upper air, and go to
Upper air,
700
gotcha.
millibar FGen. And that is
Gotcha.
where, yep, there you go. We got it. And that is where we're seeing, if you go a little bit further north now, you see at the top of your screen there by New York City. We talked about 850 millibars. Now we go a little bit higher up in the atmosphere to 700 millibars. And you can kind of, yeah, you change the sector, and you can
Okay.
kind of see that area that's developing of 700 millibar, just basically showing that there's a band potential to set up here across New York City and Long Island. The problem we have is there is dry air from the west that's coming to converge, so it's going to be a very close call in New York City for, if not, we could be talking about several inches of snow potentially in New York City and Long Island as well, potential for several inches, if not more. And some of that could extend into southern coastal, southern New England as well. So more people getting involved here, not as much as the mid-Atlantic like we talked about, but we do again have that surge of moisture from the south, and we have cold air in place from the north. So there's an opportunity here to potentially create some, maybe some inch plus per hour rates for at least a brief period of time across New York City and Long Island. It will be a very close call though for New York City, whether or not those best bands can get in there. They might be just to the south, or they might work over you. If they work over you, 3, 4, 5 inches of snow is certainly possible, and that applies to Long Island as well.
Yeah, awesome. That's great stuff. So, that's kind of the science behind what you see, and I think it's one of my favorite parts about YouTube, Brady. And I think you'll agree is, a lot of TV stations can't really go in depth on things like 700 millibar frontogenesis. Luckily, though, we've got all the time
Indeed.
in the world here tonight, so it is kind of awesome to be able to go over this stuff. I did see one chat. Brian Truslow says my brother in Middlebrook, VA, measured 15 inches. Uh, I'll be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if that's right. We've seen some pretty impressive rates throughout the day, especially in the mountains of Virginia, like you said, where we've seen widespread 6 to 12 inches. Probably some isolated spots in there have definitely gotten a little bit more. So definitely a impressive storm out that way. All right, so we'll keep on going ahead here. Again, this is about 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock tonight. This is whenever we're dealing with that frontogenesis band that's really going to probably strengthen a bit here. So Philadelphia, New Jersey, Long Island, New York City, I wouldn't be surprised to see a band in here of probably 2 to 4 inches of snow. is not out of the question at all. Now you get further south towards areas like Cape May, into kind of Baltimore, DC, more like 4 to 6, maybe even a little bit more than that. A good little winter storm here, especially considering how quiet the past couple of years have been. Out of this one. Now we'll keep on moving ahead. This is tomorrow morning. This is by 6 a.m. I think at that point, the bulk of the storm gone, but something I want to bring your attention to, and obviously you see absolute chaos happening to the west. We'll get there in a second, but still talking about the mid-Atlantic and Northeast here a little bit. You kind of see this leftover pink and purple on the map. That's some freezing rain and freezing drizzle tomorrow morning. I mean, again, we've been talking about the mountains of West Virginia and Virginia. You're just stuck on the cold side of a boundary here. And that with just these rounds of precipitation going over it, it's just going to be a travel nightmare through here. Tomorrow morning still, you're going to have all the snow from today, add some ice on top of it. Yeah, just not a good, look, not a fun thing to deal with. And obviously, Brady, we've seen plenty of reports of car crashes and things like that due to this. Not even from this storm, but from other storms as well. From the past week, just this pattern has really caused some travel chaos across the country. So just want to bring your attention to that before we get to kind of the craziness of what you see unfolding on the screen tomorrow. Now, again, before we talk about that in depth, let's talk about totals. This is the latest ice forecast, and this is brand new, hot off the press from the National Weather Service for again, the next 24 hours starting basically right now, 7 p.m. Eastern tonight. So it's a little old. It's like, an hour old, but in the grand scheme of forecasts, this is basically hot off the press. You can see, though, that area from Roanoke back down towards Danville, and you get in the mountains of northern North Carolina. Anyone watching in Boone, back down towards the areas just to the north and east of Asheville, and kind of those, cold air damming places that get that cold air trapped along the eastern slopes of the mountains. Luckily enough to grow up here in the Western Carolina, so I'm pretty used to hearing the word cold air damming and things like that. And I think a lot of folks that grow up here, are kind of the same way. But the usual suspect areas need to watch for some pretty significant icing, and I wouldn't be surprised to see even more than this. You can kind of see some of these brighter colors mixing in here. That's nearly half an inch of ice, folks, and that's on top of whatever snow or ice you've already seen. It's going to be a problem. And again, don't be surprised in Greensboro, Triad, Danville, Wilkesboro. You could see a glaze to a tenth of an inch, but definitely going to be kind of an icy mess for really anyone in here. And then you get up into Virginia, Richmond, Charlottesville, Harrisonburg, and then those cold air damming areas of West Virginia. As that kind of warm nose moves in overnight tonight, it's going to erode some of the snow that's falling and lead to this kind of icy setup. So we really are seeing it all, huh, Brady?
Indeed, yes. Classic cold air CAD setup here. So that warm nose just above the surface gets going, and then you see enough cold air just at the surface to kind of help let that rain freeze on contact, and that's where really the mess happens. And oftentimes, again, we talked about it last time, Gerald. It's the ice events that when there's less, oftentimes more trouble can happen because it's
Definitely.
less talked about and there's less warning and notice about it. So these can oftentimes be problematic. So just give people, some caution, some word, make sure they're taking it easy. Remember, try to put less pressure on the brakes and the gas if you can. Ease up on turns ahead of time, so it makes it a little bit easier on you. I was driving in this last week on freezing rain. My whole car actually got frozen in freezing rain while driving. So it's no joke. It's means business when freezing rain is happening. So really advise you all to take it seriously and try to make sure you let others know that ahead of time so they can prepare.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the tips on driving is a great point there for sure. All right, so I also wanted to add, we were kind of up to I think about 300 people in here now, everybody. So if you haven't already, go ahead and like the stream, subscribe, hit the bell for the latest notifications on my channel and Brady's channel, which is I think I pinned it, didn't I, Brady? It should be pinned in the chat. I think yes.
Indeed, it is. It is pinned.
All right, so
The
yeah,
link to my
the link
channel.
to yes, the link to Brady's channel is pinned there. And again, you can go ahead and you can also tag us with your pictures on Twitter or X, or again, if you want to do it on Instagram or Facebook or something. I've got my phone pulled up here so I can kind of hopefully hear it buzzed and go find it there. But definitely want to share your footage and stuff here on the stream. Would definitely be a fun thing to do. And then also, like I mentioned, super chat goal. If we kind of hit the goal, and I know it says 2 out of 10, we had two $4.99 donations. I'm gonna count that in it, so we'll say it's 4 out of 10. If we get 6 more donations of $5 or more, we'll break down big snow potential next week in areas further south. So that's kind of the plan for the rest of the evening. All right. Snowfall to come out of this one, Brady. Like we said, that Frontogenesis band could definitely do some pretty good work here into Long Island, southern New Jersey, back down into Delaware, and it could shift a little bit further north. So you see these 4-inch totals in there. I mean, this goes 50 miles to the north. Philadelphia could get that 4-inch range. New York City could be more like 3 to 4 compared to maybe the about 2 to 3 you're in right now. So definitely a good snowy evening on the way for a lot of folks in here.
Indeed, for sure. Yeah, you've seen a coastal Jersey and starting to get into it right now. And overnight tonight, again, some of this will extend into southern coastal New England. So out there by the islands there, Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, if we have anybody out there, there will be some snow accumulating tonight, potential for several inches. And then really, again, I'm very fascinated, especially up here in the Northeast, how New York City, Long Island plays out. There's some serious overperformance potential if we see that front of Genesis band come together early and organized, then there's definitely some opportunities for not just like 2 or 3 inches, but maybe 4, 5, 6 for some over performance opportunity up there. So very fascinating. Again, unfortunately for our people in Eastern PA, just not the storm likely to be able to cash in. So, but again, good snow adds on to the seasonal. So again, let us know if you're out there, New York City, Long Island, Jersey, Delmarva, PA, tag us, let us know what's going on out there right now, snow reports and everything. We love it. We love it. We'll interact with you guys and share your content for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So good stuff there. Okay, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the next storm. And I guess before we get into the models and stuff, let's kind of break it down a little bit. And give you all folks a general idea of what's happening. So I'll give you the quick kind of simplified version, and then I'll let Brady go into his expertise here and really kind of get into the nitty gritty of the storm. But the whole idea here is basically what we're seeing right here. So this is tomorrow morning, Wednesday. And you can see this big time trough dipping out into the western U.S. You can kind of see all these isotax, as we call them, kind of basically like a trough on a farm that's like a pig or something eats out of. We're not very clever in meteorology. We have pretty not stupid names, but simple names for things. So that's a trough. And basically what happens with these troughs, folks, is you get kind of two important sides of it. You get the right-hand side here. That's where we get all of the lift. And in fact, we're kind of seeing two distinct areas of lift, I would say. We've got one big area over kind of the central plains. That's where we're going to get big snow. And then another important area of lift tomorrow, this is tomorrow morning, back down near Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama. That's where we could get severe weather. So kind of a 1-2 punch out of this. And we'll kind of just time it out throughout the day. Wednesday just keeps on moving north and east. Remember, we've got this big southeast ridge, so it's not going to move perfectly, west to east across the lower 48. It's going to move from kind of southwest to northeast is going to be the general orientation of things, and that'll definitely kind of bring that severe weather potential even a little bit higher. That'll up the warm air advection out in front of this thing down south, and also kind of bring a bit of a mess to areas of the northeast. You can see by overnight Wednesday, all the most of the northeast and the Midwest getting in on the lift. The problem though is you might be lacking the cold air. So you might have the lift, but you might not have the upper level cold air support, and you could be dealing with just a good old fashioned cold rain. And we'll definitely talk about that. Another thing I kind of want to pull up on the spot here, something I really don't show much on the channel, but I think is great to look at. Let's look for any potential jet streaks and kind of break down how that could increase or decrease your total precipitation. So we'll go ahead and back this up just a little bit. So for anyone who doesn't know, this is just our mid-level wind map. It's pretty self-explanatory. The brighter the colors, the stronger the winds. Well above the surface, this is 500 millibars, so I guess that's maybe like 6 kilometers. Let's see if I can find out how high up that is. Yeah, that's about 6 kilometers, maybe like 5.5 kilometers up, which I just realized I don't know why I'm using kilometers. By the way, in class, we use kilometers and meters, so if I ever throw out random metric units and all of these American viewers are wondering, what are you talking about? Sorry, that's the scientist in me, I guess, speaking. But yeah, you'll notice this kind of ribbon of winds increasing over portions of Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Iowa. This is a jet streak trying to get going, and it really ramps up by right around here. This would be Thursday morning. I'll go ahead and break it down into a couple components here. So whenever you have a jet streak like this, you can draw a line through it vertically and horizontally. And we've got a couple different areas. We've got the left exit region up here, and then we've got the right entrance region. Both of these are areas with increased lift. So you might be wondering, okay, well, that's cool. What's the importance of that? Well, this means we could get higher end snowfall rates up into Michigan, Indiana, Ohio. This also means that we could really enhance that deep convection down south through Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas overnight tomorrow. That could increase our severe weather threat. That's something to monitor here with this jet streak. And the whole kind of same idea keeps on here through the Northeast. So we could see kind of those same general areas play out as this jet streak really ramps up into the Northeast. You can see that bright ribbon here of stronger winds this by Thursday evening, and then gets on out of here. And we'll start kind of talking about the next storm. So, Brady, go ahead and add your thoughts here on this one and the setup, and any other fun little meteorological details you wanna add, or just whatever you want to say, I guess.
Indeed, another cold air damming setup we have here, where there's going to be the potential for front end thump of snow with this as well. Again, we're like Gerald shown, that trough drops in. We're going to start amplifying that jet streak. And what's going to happen here is we're going to see snow get ahead out in front, and then quickly followed by freezing rain and sleet for a lot of people as well, up into the mid Atlantic and Northeast, and definitely a concern. Again, with that strong easterly ridge there over in the Atlantic, that's going to pump in that warm air, especially above the surface. But that cold air at the surface still holds. So anytime we're talking about warm air above the surface and cold air at the surface, these are classic ice potential, whether sleet or freezing rain. There's definitely some significant potential there in the Northeast Mid Atlantic. While in the Midwest, we're going to be talking about more snow for people, no crazy amounts, but for some people, especially in Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, there's going to be some opportunities to cash in some snow out of this one. At least several inches plowable snow definitely in play here for our folks out there in the Midwest.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess with that, we can go ahead and bring up the kind of future cast out of this one. So go ahead and move it to this one, and move my face out of the way. So, okay, we'll back it up a little bit. Tonight, again, the show goes on, I guess. So this is basically right now. Notice not a lot happening out into the Central Plains. Still really dealing with the current eastern kind of U.S. storm here through the Mid-Atlantic. But overnight tonight, snow blossoms here into Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, Iowa, Colorado. By the way, if anyone's watching from the Midwest or the Great Plains, let us know in the chat. I know we've got a lot of East Coast folks in here, but if anyone's out here in Kansas City, into St. Louis, Chicago finally about to get a good winter storm. Feels like it's been forever. This one could finally do it for you as the storm kind of moves off to the north and east. So definitely let us know in the chat if you're watching from any of these areas. Now, we'll keep on moving it ahead here into time. I think Wednesday morning, waking up here, it's going to be quite a snowy scene through really much of the central U.S., kind of north into again Kansas, southern Nebraska, Des Moines, going to get in on the fun. And then by Friday afternoon, Chicago, yeah, these are going to be pretty good snowfall rates. And again, Brady, you always are pretty good at that. So let's maybe take a sounding here Wednesday afternoon over Chicago and kind of talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, so right here in this sounding specifically, pretty well saturated. Again, we look at that green line, which is your dew point, that red line, which is your temperature, and you want to see those two closer together. You want to see a minimal dew point depression, we call it, especially in the dendritic growth zone, that DGZ where it says on the left. That's where your snowfall production zone. That's where your snowflakes are made. You need to be well saturated from there to the bottom of the atmosphere to the surface, and you can see there is some lift present in there. So maybe other soundings have a little bit more lift, possibly, but a good moderate, at least moderate snow sounding there. Again, calling for probably at least half-inch per hour rates, and not too warm, so it's not going to be a super fluffy snow as well. At least not in the beginning here for Chicago area.
Yeah, definitely good stuff there. And if we kind of continue moving it ahead into time here and keep the storm going, maybe we'll get a little bit of a better sounding. Tell me if there's an hour you want me to stop and take a sounding somewhere. We can definitely do that. But by Wednesday afternoon, I think another thing is, even if your rates aren't crazy high, this is a big shield of snow. I mean, this goes from Michigan rather. I always get those two mixed up for some reason. From Michigan all the way back down to Kansas City. So I mean, that's a big block of just blue on the map that's going to kind of rotate through. So again, we'll just use Chicago. It's a big population center, but this is going to be the same for a lot of areas in here. Snow starting, we'll say Wednesday right around noon, and then it'll go all the way until. Probably take a sounding right in there. That might not be a bad idea. It could, go all the way until about sunrise the next day. And right here, as the low pressure itself is passing, I'll take a sounding here, Brady. This should be a little bit more exciting, probably, hypothetically, if you want to kind of talk about this one. This is as the low is moving through, so you're going to get a little bit of enhanced lift because of that. And you can kind of see that in the DGZ there, even just below it. It looks like we have some of the highest lifts. So maybe if we get them to overlap a little bit better, it might be a higher end sounding. But you want to talk about this one a little bit?
Yeah, so that's another good snow sounding right there. The only concern I would have with here is notice the correlation between the low pressure system moving through closely and that dry air at the top of the dendritic growth zone there. So as that low pressure starts moving in, that might cut down on you want to be well saturated, very important in the dendritic growth zone. So definitely more lift present, which can kind of offset some of that dry air at the top of the dendritic growth zone. So still probably moderate snow sounding at that point. Probably not extremely heavy snow, but that warm nose you can see creeping too. So ratio is probably a little bit lower, maybe a little bit less snow growth as that warm nose kind of creeps in. And again, another sounding Gerald pulling here showing you that dry air at the top of the dendritic growth zone.
Yeah.
Again, it's important to be very well saturated throughout your dendritic growth zone. This was actually part of the reason why this weekend in New England, some places weren't able to get as much snow as we maybe could have had that been a different case. But maybe farther away, Gerald. Try maybe northern Indiana for a sounding. It might be a little bit better. A little bit farther away from the upper level low might be a little bit better. Yeah, there we go.
That's a good
That's
one. There we go. Found one.
that's a very classic. You can see a little bit farther away. So what happens is this is a great for anybody that loves meteorology and weather. Get a chance to geek out here. So the fact that our upper level energy and our low pressure is farther away, what happens is that dry air can kind of get over, and we call it like dry slot a little bit, and upper level dry air starts moving in. And when you're a little bit farther away, this is a classic example. Notice those soundings we just pulled, a little bit more drier, around 500 to 600 millibars. These soundings a little bit more saturated, and you have that lift. That's a very heavy snow sounding call for the Michigan Indiana border right there. So those are definitely some 1 to 2 inch per hour rates. Again, it's quickly moving through, but there will be an opportunity for some moderate to heavy snowfall with the system coming up for the Midwest as well. That's a very classic snow sounding right there.
Yeah, absolutely. We finally found one. Took a little bit of
Yeah.
clicking, but that one, yeah, that's a good one. All right, so you definitely see it's going to depend on where you're at, but I definitely think at least times of moderate to heavy snow. Other times maybe a little bit lighter with this one, but either way, a good shield of snow here. Now let's talk about kind of the Mid Atlantic a little bit, and I'll take a sounding over Central PA here. This is what time is this actually? This is tomorrow evening. So check a sounding over here. The problem here isn't so much the saturation, and yeah, this is kind of a bit of a dry sounding too, but the bigger thing to note here at least is this warm nose. This is why we're not going to get a nice big snowstorm into portions of the Northeast. It's really going to kind of come down to this warm air aloft, and the reason for that is the track of the storm. Again, if you look at it, kind of breeze ahead into time a little bit here. Just the track of the storm is so far north here that we're getting all that warm air. Another thing to know with this, and kind of the sounding showed it, is we could get a pretty intense dry slot in here, I think. We had that this morning down into the Triad of North Carolina. Forecast was for a little bit more ice and actually happened, not because it was too warm, it was just too dry actually in that area. And you kind of get that with these big kind of mid-latitude cyclones, oftentimes in the warm sector where we're south of the warm front. There's really just not much lift. Most of the lift are going to be along the warm front itself here to the north, and then along the cold front to the south, and everything in between is just lacking anything to really create a big amount of lift. So it's kind of just dreary light precipitation, and that is something to note here with the track as well. So I think areas kind of in that warm sector could struggle to get a lot of precipitation in general. Brady, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so that dry slot, you know what that also brings up a concern is oftentimes it's easier, especially we're talking about that warm nose, but colder at the surface. So that opportunity there then for freezing rain to actually accumulate maybe a little bit more efficiently happens when you see that dry slot. So that would be my biggest concern when we start talking about that across the Appalachians there in Pennsylvania, into upstate New York as well, even down into the Appalachian Mountains down there into West Virginia, Maryland, and Virginia. Definitely some concern there for sleet, freezing rain. Again, sometimes that more lighter freezing rain is when it's worse because it's able to accumulate a lot more efficiently versus, heavy, well saturated, coming down rain. So that would be my biggest concern. Kind of my thoughts there with that dry slot over Pennsylvania there into the Appalachians.
Yeah, very good point. And then let's also briefly talk a little bit about severe weather. I know everyone wants to talk about snow, but this is a pretty nasty looking squall line tomorrow night down here. So tomorrow afternoon, pretty quiet into the Dixie Alley area. Heavy rain into the Carolinas. You can kind of see that shield of prefrontal rain out ahead of the storm. But we could get enough destabilization during the evening. And then I mentioned that jet streak that cranks up during the evening. I mean, it lines up perfectly with when convection initiates. So that's kind of one of the keys to forecasting severe weather is you need some sort of trigger mechanism. And that's often the hardest part of forecasting severe weather. I would know because I just had a quiz on that last week, and that was one of the questions. But you kind of see as that jet streak kind of ramps up in the upper levels, you get that squall line to intensify. And because of that, tomorrow down here in Mississippi, Alabama, and areas in and around there, we do have a slight risk of severe weather. And this includes the threat of tornadoes. So talk about a dynamic system. We just talked about heavy snow soundings. Now we're talking about tornadoes. It's such a crazy storm. And this becomes more often this time of year as we start getting into February and March as the seasons, really begin to clash. You oftentimes get these more dynamic systems that produce both snow and severe weather. So just something that I think is at least important to somewhat mention there out of this one. You have any thoughts on the severe weather? No, you're not as big into severe weather, Brady, but if you want to add anything there.
Oh, I love I love forecasting severe weather. I'm just not as smart, definitely, when it comes to forecasting it. So definitely, very intriguing. But yeah, they're definitely anytime we start talking about, especially dynamic upper level energy at play, especially you start seeing those. We start getting a little wavier with the jet stream as well. Severe weather threats always rise, especially with dynamic upper level energy, and that's what we're going to start seeing here at 500. When we start getting that thermal clash at play, we start talking about that upper level enhancement of the jet stream as well. That's when severe weather starts becoming a concern. So I would say not only then, but maybe into next week as well, there could be opportunities for severe weather with these storms as well.
Yeah, next week. I mean, next week really looks crazy. Honestly, it looks like this week kind of on steroids. Maybe not as many storms next week, but I think the intensity of them will be higher, and that'll be something to monitor. So, do you want to talk a little bit about? We'll kind of move it ahead in a time here, but the Northeast, kind of just this messy, ugly, transitional type of storm, and obviously those are your people, and you're kind of pretty good, I think, at breaking down these types of storms. So, what's just your overall message to people in the Northeast with the storm for Thursday morning here? This is again 7 a.m. Thursday. Everyone who's kind of looking at the NAM model.
Yeah, indeed. Like we're talking about, again, we mentioned it briefly earlier, but again, it's that concern for the potential for snow in the front end across a lot of even into southern New England and into Northeast PA, into upstate New York as well, and then that will quickly transition to sleet and freezing rain. And there's definitely going to be again that opportunity for especially some of those higher elevation areas this time to be able to accumulate sleet and freezing rain. There's definitely a concern here. Oftentimes, models underestimate our CAD signature or cold air damming, meaning our cold air likes to funnel into the lower levels. So it likes to, funnel down for that Canadian high out in place ahead. And as that low pressure starts moving ahead, and like we talk about, once that warm air starts moving above the surface and it starts moving northeastward, that's when you start seeing that opportunity for you have that cold air at the surface. Remember, warm air above. That's when we start talking about ice, and that's certainly going to be a concern here for ice accretion here across the Northeast. And then northern New England's going to remain probably more snow, if I had to guess. And now they'll be able to accumulate at least several inches of snow at that point. And Gerald pulling up a pretty classic sleet freezing rain sounding right there, where that warm nose kind of pops over that 0 degree line. That's your freezing line, and you're unsaturated too. So that's going to make it a little bit easier to accumulate oftentimes when you're not fully saturated. So that makes it a little bit easier, and that's definitely a concern here with this system.
Yeah, this is a classic getting your money's worth out of whatever falls in terms of ice. The best or the worst for us, but if you're imagine you're freezing rainstorm and you want to create big problems, the best conditions for you would be light precipitation and a light breeze. What happens in situations like that is imagine that let me pull something up here I'll just use my hand, I guess. Imagine that my arm here is a tree limb or something like that. So you get the light precipitation that falls on it. If it was really heavy, that would kind of mess up the freezing process. It would kind of keep interrupting it every time it tries to freeze. So first of all, you've got the light precip, and then you get a little bit of a light breeze. That kind of lets the water drip down and around the branches, the tree limbs, and it just freezes very efficiently. So that's a very good point here. And like you said, the sounding supports those lighter rates, which is actually kind of worse than if we had heavy rates in one of these scenarios. So definitely interesting stuff there. Another thing I'll add for my folks down in the Carolinas, we haven't talked a lot about you because you're kind of on the warm side of this. I'll go ahead and right now give you a warning. Thursday morning, you see that squall line? Let me just take a sounding here in the upstate and kind of northeast Georgia. You're looking at this and you're thinking, all right, it's 38 degrees. What are you talking about? Why should I worry? Well, I wouldn't be worried about severe weather so much, but we could get some crazy loud thunder Thursday morning. You see this inversion? That is a stout inversion, and this is a convective band. Again, we've got that lift, and basically what happens is you get those positive and negative charges in the clouds. They start rubbing up against each other, whether it's cold or not. When you got that lift, or some sort of updraft, you're going to probably get some sort of lightning. And whenever that lightning hits down in this kind of very strong inversion, it's going to bounce like crazy. The sound waves are, at least. So go ahead and just be prepared Thursday morning. We could get some really loud boomers in that area. Kind of, again, just such a dynamic storm. Interesting to see there out of this storm. So just, little fun meteorological tidbit there for my Carolina folks. And that would probably include Georgia and areas in and around as well. All right. Let's see if we can go and take a look at some totals for snow, ice, sleet, and all that fun stuff. Definitely could run into some problems with it. So we'll start out here into the Central Plains and talk snowfall totals. This is the forecast from the National Weather Service. I think they're doing a pretty good job here, so no need to show a ton of different models. I think this will do the trick pretty well. Brady, do I still have you?
Oh, you still got me, man.
Okay, gotcha. Just double checking. You got quiet on me there. Oh, it scares me.
I'm,
but
we're doing awesome. You're doing great. I'm letting the genius talk right now. He's laying the
oh,
ground.
okay.
Everybody, it's
Something like
fantastic.
that.
Everybody, give a shout out to Gerald right now in the chat. He's doing amazing.
All right, so snowfall totals out of this one. Again, this is the NWS forecast. I think a pretty good band here in Iowa, northern Kansas, northern Missouri. Probably right around half a foot. Some areas a little bit more, some areas a little bit less. You know the drill here. But if we had to take an average kind of the swath of snow here, half a foot. Kansas City in and around that range. Maybe Kansas City a little bit closer to 3 to 5 than half a foot. St. Louis. Notice not a lot here. However, I think ice will be a concern in here. Kind of circle an area, and I think I forgot to pull up the map. I'll go find it. But right in the circled area, that's where we're going to get ice concerns out of this. Of maybe a tenth of an inch to a quarter of an inch could be a problem in those regions from tomorrow morning into tomorrow afternoon. But a pretty good snowstorm to the north of there. A pretty decent ice event to the south. Now moving off to the north and east. Chicago, again, a good little storm here. Now, it looks like the totals might have come down a little bit from this morning when I recorded this. Again, maybe they're kind of also seeing some of that drier air in the mid-levels. We'll definitely see if that plays out and becomes a problem. But still a good little event. We're talking 3 to 5 inches. You go up towards Milwaukee, I think closer to 6 to 8 inches out of this one. North of Detroit, probably around there as well, maybe 6, 7 inches of snow. But either way, it's just a big classic kind of shield of snow. This isn't that complicated of a forecast. Same thing also on the southern end here from northeast Ohio down through Indianapolis. Again, the St. Louis area, going to see some icing concerns. I think I forgot to pull the map up, but trust me, in here, about a tenth of an inch to a quarter of an inch of ice. Going to be a problem. That'll mess up travel. That'll mess up some power lines. Probably not a huge power outage concern here, but definitely could see some scattered power outages out of a setup like this. And then we'll go over to the northeast. And Brady, I'll let you talk here because, again, this is kind of your expertise. And by the way, before you do, I will add everything down here. This is from the current storm, so just kind of ignore that.
Yep, so that's combined. There are the NWS forecasts, like Gerald just pointed out. But the general idea is probably more coating to 2 inches, maybe 1 to 3 for into southern New England, and then same thing up there into northern PA and Hudson Valley. And then, as you can see, like we mentioned, there's going to be the focus for at least several inches of snow as we move into northern New England and across upstate, more upstate New York. Also, currently, upstate New York, Gerald, is actually getting lake effect again. I've seen some like 12 to 18-inch totals out of there. So, if we have anybody
Never ends
there,
up there, does it?
yeah, Tug Hill, anybody up there right now off of Lake Ontario, maybe we can get some people to give us some reports up there. But again, upstate New York will have an opportunity here to get some, pretty significant snow, especially up there into the St. Lawrence River Valley and up in by Champlain Valley into the Adirondacks, up as well into northeastern New York and northern Vermont. Definitely going to be some opportunity for at least several inches of snow, and elevation won't hurt as well. In fact, might help enhance some of your snow totals for anybody living up there.
Yeah, good stuff. Definitely there. First, this storm, not a huge deal for the Northeast, I don't think. Definitely, next week could be a little bit different. But the Wednesday, Thursday storm going to be more of a Midwest and Great Plains event. Let me also pull up the ice because I forgot to do that. And I do think that is worth discussing here out of it. So let's do models. Actually, let me go back to a couple other places and talk about ice as well. All right, so this is for kind of Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas. Sorry, completely forgot what states I was looking at here. And up into Missouri. Like I said, not a big deal, but a tenth of an inch of ice, a quarter of an inch, not out of the question in this region. Just be aware of that. And then we've seen some pretty big ice totals on some of the models up here into Northeast Ohio, into Indiana. Again, not overly worried, but definitely could see some problems here. And then about a tenth of an inch back near St. Louis as well. And then that gets us into the Northeast, where I think it'll be best probably to switch to an actual model. Her might not quite go out far enough. Let's see. Only goes about 24 hours so far. Yeah, not going to quite do it. So we'll switch to the other run, but that's okay. That'll work. All right, so these are the ice totals from the high resolution rapid refresh. Brady, I think this is pretty realistic. What do you think?
Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe an opportunity for a little bit more, depending on if models, like we talked about, underestimate cold air damming. That's certainly possible. Still changes in the tracks. We've seen actually a lot of struggling model performance lately, even into the short term. So it's a little frustrating for us as forecasters when we're trying to utilize them as tools. But certainly, there's going to be an opportunity for some freezing rain accumulation across southern and central New England. And again, I'd be concerned, like we talked about there, into central PA across the Appalachians and into into southern New York up there into the Northeast as well. And then also that has to be the concern again back where the upper level low move through into the Midwest. I would say across Indiana and Ohio, there's going to be some concern there for freezing rain as well.
Yep, definitely. So good stuff there. All right. Um, Sorry, I'm just gonna scroll through my tabs really quickly. I will also add again, if you haven't already, go ahead, subscribe, like the stream. Again, subscribe to my channel and Brady's channel, linked in the description and pinned here in the chat. Again, we're trying to get him to 1,000 subscribers. I think that's a pretty doable thing for us. We got 36,000 here. I think we can get another 400 or so to go join Brady. Right? Doesn't seem like too much to ask for. So we'll definitely try to do that because obviously, I think as y'all can tell, he's a really smart guy and he's not faking it. Like not to call anyone out. I'm not going to call anyone out, but some YouTubers definitely probably don't know as much as they let on. So, but Brady is not one of those. He, as you can tell, he definitely knows his stuff. All right. So what do we want to talk about next, Brady? Or everyone in the chat, what do we want to talk about? Do we have any questions or anything like that? Again, kind of a pretty chill stream here. We've, I think, discussed the first two storms a little bit. We can definitely talk about the longer range pattern, but do we have any questions? Or again, Brady, if there's something you want me to pull up,
It's nice, Gerald. First of all, I'm smart, but I'm not that. Don't put me on a pedestal like that. I will not claim to be some expert. I just love this stuff to the core as you do. So don't put me on that pedestal. I'm not I am not that smart. I just love this stuff and try to break it down for y'all.
Well, we
We got a
have a super chat. Yeah. Phil P says, thanks, Cheryl, for all you do. And Brady, I'm working 16 hours today to have off tomorrow. Can't wait till 10 p.m. Well, thank you, first of all. And second of all, definitely, that's a long shift. That's a long day for anybody. I don't even know the longest shift I've worked at any of my jobs. Probably like 11 hours. So I've definitely not pulled a 16-hour day, unless you want to count like some YouTube days. I could argue Hurricane Helene was like a 28-hour day, and that was nonstop, like basically being on and off live. So if you want to count that, then sure. But thank you, Phil. We appreciate that. That's very nice of you, and good luck. Definitely enjoy your day off tomorrow. Not sure where you're watching from, but maybe you can go play in the snow or play in the tornadoes if you're down in Alabama.
Thank you, Phil. Awesome. Appreciate it. Gerald, we also have we got people sharing their reports here in the chat, especially I asked, we got any reports up there, New Jersey and Long Island. We have more people saying Long Island starting to get coating and accumulations up there. We have someone saying nothing in Allentown as usual. Sorry, Clayton. We also have someone saying 5 inches. Oh, he's saying we're talking about his weather app showing five. Oh, we know how we stand on weather apps, Gerald. We got some. We have some grievances
Might go on a
with
soapbox
those.
here in a second.
But we definitely have some snow reports going on. Starting to see some accumulations up there in the Big Apple, and into Long Island and across coastal northeastern New Jersey. So starting to fill in there, as we were just talking about. It looks like we have
Awesome.
some more
Good
super
stuff.
chats as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Eric says, any chance for another snow in Atlanta before spring? And then Wes with a $10 super chat as well. So thank you, Wes. And I guess we can answer Eric's question. So any chance for another snow in Atlanta? And you know what? Honestly, if we count all the super chats we got, because we had a couple under five, we just about got to the goal. So well, let's go ahead and talk about next week a little bit, because I think that's a great question to answer. So let's talk about the pattern, first of all. I think that's going to be important before talking specifically yes or no for snow in Atlanta. This is the ensembles from the European showing the potential for a bit of a shift by the time we get to next week. So we'll go ahead and kind of move it ahead here and give it a second to load, and we'll move it all the way out of time. All right, so we'll back it up just a little bit. Now, this is kind of tomorrow into Thursday. Right now, this is why we have this cutter pattern that we call it. Again, these storms are not kind of riding up the coast. They're cutting inland. That's why we're getting snow in Chicago, Kansas, Missouri, areas like that. We've got the clash of boundaries, and the track, because of that, is right in between the two, something kind of like that. So we've got the snow on the cold side, and then kind of the severe weather threat and the flooding threat on the warm side, and then ice as well, kind of in between, where, you know, those air masses are running into each other. Now, by the time we get later this week, here comes Thursday and Friday, another storm moving out west. This could be a big one, folks. I've been talking about this one on my channel. This is going to be a big storm for California. A lot of snow, a lot of rain. If anyone's watching from the West Coast, let us know, because you're going to get it pretty good out of this one, I think, by the time we get into next week. So we'll keep on moving this ahead. That storm continues to cross to the east. You notice a big ridge out in front of it, so I think a bit of a warm up this week ahead of it. This could be a big severe weather potential as well. This will be Saturday into the deep south. Watching severe weather threat there, because again, you got that warm air in front of it due to this ridge. You've got the kind of trough here doing its magic as well. That combination could cause problems for the Saturday time frame. That one, though, notice what happens. It kind of pushes the ridge out of here. So this is going to be a bit of a pattern changer, I think, by Sunday. And at this point, our NAO becomes negative. We start getting closer to a phase 8 in the MJO. Those teleconnections Brady mentioned earlier becoming more favorable for winter weather out of this time frame. And you'll kind of notice all of this just pulls off to the north and east and locks in a better pattern, because behind it, by the time we get to about 10 days from now, a much more favorable troughing position for snow areas deeper in the south. Now, the question was Atlanta. Could that be Atlanta? It could be Atlanta. Could it be Little Rock? It could be Little Rock. Could it be Nashville? It could be Nashville. Heck, it could be the Carolinas. It's just too soon to know who exactly, but I do think about 10 days from now, 7 to 10 days, someone in this circle is going to get a pretty good storm. Now, that could be snow, that could be ice, that could also be severe weather. It could be all three at the same time, is also a possibility. And I'll just show you the latest kind of European model from this afternoon. I should have it pulled up somewhere in here. Let me see. And I'll just to give you a general idea of what this could look like. So we'll move this into Thursday, and then I'll let you kind of add here in a second, Brady. But notice the big storm coming into California. That's the weekend storm. Big problems out of that one. Gets to the east. Here we go, Saturday afternoon. Severe weather threat. We've got a warm sector out here, and I'll take a little sounding out here too to kind of look at it if it loads. I know it's a black screen right now. It should load. Uno momento. Let's try a different area. Maybe that just wasn't in the mood to load. Um, or it just might not load at all. Okay, whatever. That's fine too. Forget the sounding. Whatever. That's fine. Pivotal weather. I see how it is. We'll keep moving ahead though. Either way, a big area of lift, big squall line. That's the severe weather potential Saturday night right through Dixie Alley. But to the north, notice we've got snow in the northeast. We've got snow back on the backside along the cold front that's kind of catching up to the storm. Also, a stronger storm. This is down 999, 993 right over the Louisville area. Strong squall line overnight Saturday through the deep south. Good band of snow into the Midwest, into the Northeast, becomes just an icy, snowy mess into New England. By Sunday, big squall line to the south. Storm strengthens. This could bring blizzard-like conditions. I would not be surprised. Watch out for that. Maybe in portions of eastern Canada. Not out of the question in Buffalo, areas like that. We got a 979 millibar low. Super strong cold air advection coming in behind it. Yeah, this could be strong wind. Also, Brady, I'll let you jump in now. This could be a big power outage problem by the weekend for New England. Look at all that ice and all that wind at the same time.
I'm definitely watching. I don't know. Do you get the individual ensemble members that are on Pivotal as well, Gerald?
I do
For
not know. Yeah, I know what you're
it's
talking about.
fine.
Unfortunately, I do not have that.
Yeah, no, and no worries. There is certainly some interesting potential, and not just for like Gerald was mentioning, for there to be a strong storm, but also snow impacts. It's really hard to tell precipitation type right now. If you don't actually mind showing the upper level at 500 volt, for a second to kind of give some perspective on kind of what we're looking at here, there's actually an opportunity as we play this out for this to maybe give a chance for even places further north and east, for places further south and east, into southern New England and into northeastern PA to get some snow out of this, at least front end snow, especially as it starts moving through. Overrunning precip gets out ahead even before the main upper level energy moves through. So regardless of where it moves through, that's there's going to be an opportunity for at least snow to come on in and in the beginning before potentially over right before the mix wins out, unfortunately, maybe again. That's certainly possible. And then we'll have to start talking about ice concerns yet again, which would not be fun. But I think there's a lot of opportunity for movement here. What I was saying is a lot of those ensemble members are showing there's still a significant spread in the ensemble members, meaning some are showing actually big a potential for a big snowstorm across, even as far south as like New York City, for example, with this. So it's not saying that there's gonna be, but it's still alluding to the fact that there's significant spread for this weekend. And like we talked about, anytime we're talking about a dynamic upper level system here, like we're going to have in this current pattern, the opportunity for a large storm is definitely present. And that is very much a concern for this weekend. Snow totals, way too early to start talking about, but significant snow totals are certainly possible for people in the Northeast with this. And then after that, it's hard to say what might follow, but that's the general idea what we got going on for this weekend.
Yeah. And I can just show the ensembles from because I noticed this in my video this morning. You talked about the spread. I was looking at the operational run. I was like, all right, classic kind of cutter. And then I looked at the EPS. I was like, ooh, maybe not a classic cutter. There was definitely a good little kind of signal here. So if we look at the chance of at least an inch of snow falling from this storm, this is the European ensembles brand new. I mean, yeah, look at the signal here. That's basically saying 100% chance in Boston off the EPS. Obviously, sharp gradient down towards Philly, New York City, Northern Jersey, but Connecticut, Rhode Island, Mass. That's a good signal. That's better than what you would think looking at that operational run for sure.
Indeed, yeah, there's certainly the opportunity here for there to be, and we wouldn't be talking about minor totals too, Gerald. We'd be talking about significant totals potentially as well. If it was just a front end thump, then maybe not significant. But if we were to see like a mostly snow to all snow event, there's actually an opportunity here where you may go front end thump of snow and then switch to mix or rain, and then you could finish as snow as well. We've actually seen that as the beginning of the storm moves through, and then you might mix and the back half moves through where that colder air starts working in again. as the storm starts to push through that ridge like you were showing. And then the
Mhm.
opportunity, we would be talking about significant snowfall totals as well, not just minor. And certainly our AI models are kind of Euro AI. I don't know if you had a chance to peek at that, but it's actually showing
I'm gonna
that
look
kind of
at it right now.
potential as well for there to be some significant snow potential places further south and east too. So this is going to be a dynamic storm, and that there's going to be a lot of different elements. But anytime we see that deep, that classic deep wavy dig in the jet stream, like you see here, where that 500 millibar vort drops into the south and starts gaining latitude, that's when we start talking in the wintertime. Dynamic systems at play here. So for anybody living in the eastern U.S. this weekend, you are going to feel the impacts from this one way or another, regardless of precipitation type.
Yeah, all very good points. And one of the reasons that this storm has the potential to get so strong, um, it's kind of a two-piece component here. So this is Saturday evening. We've already got a big trough dipping down south, so we've already got plenty of southern stream energy. But look at this Fort Max up over Canada. What happens is they kind of merge a little bit. So we'll move it ahead all the way right into here. So at this point, our surface low becomes kind of stacked, meaning this is 18Z Sunday. The storm's probably over Pennsylvania. So still in kind of the divergent flow of the original trough, meaning it's still strengthening, but it's becoming a little bit more stacked. And right as it's doing that, and you think, all right, it's going to start to weaken. Our upper level low here swings on through and gives it a whole nother shot of energy at the same time and kind of boosts it up a little bit. And that's why you saw that crazy drop on the model. If we go back and show it to you at the millibar rate, we'll kind of go right here. So this is Saturday afternoon. We're dealing with 1,001 millibar low over Arkansas. Not a big deal, big enough for severe weather. We go into just by the time you're waking up the next morning, it's already down to 987. And just by that evening, we're down into the 970s. So that's one of the reasons why it kind of strengthens so much. And that could really crank up the wind combined with whatever snow and ice is happening. So this shifts just south a little bit. We're talking a lot of people that could run into big problems this weekend. Then also want to say thanks to Pamela Lopez, put a super chat in there. Again, y'all, if you put a super chat, obviously, first of all, thanks, but give us a question or something. I don't want to, I mean, unless you just want to super chat, that's fine too. But obviously, I want to give you something in return for it. So just figured I'd add that as well. But definitely has big
Gerald,
potential.
Wes Woolworth said I forgot to put a super chat in, but all he said was Mr. Connecticut here. So that was our
All
$10
right.
super chat earlier. I just wanted to mention Wes Woolworth.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Connecticut. I appreciate that.
Out
um,
New England.
uh, it's like I don't know. It sounds like I don't know. He hides in the shadows. I like it. it's kind of
You named
kind
that,
of cool.
right?
All
You're
right,
right.
Wes. Yeah, Mr. Connecticut. I like that. All right, cool. So that's that storm. Any questions on this storm? Anybody?
I
Well,
see one in the chat. Mikey Banks says, "Should I be concerned in Johnson City, Tennessee, Gerald? If you want to talk about that."
yeah. So Johnson City not going to be a snow event with the first one this weekend. Now next week, I like Johnson City for the chance of snow, but check out this squall line. This is Sunday morning. Let's take a sounding over Johnson City, assuming it's going to load this time. There we go. All right. So Johnson City, you're still dealing with the cold air. So 48-degree temperature. We've got no cape in the sounding, not even close to any cape. Basically, that means there's no instability. But what there is a lot of is wind shear. So Johnson City, probably just a heavy rain event, maybe flooding, I would say, with this one. Some strong winds that would bring some gusty winds just from the strong jet stream above us. That heavy rain would kind of mix it down to the surface. But where I'd be more concerned in the south for active weather, assuming the sounding is going to work this time, let's see if we can get a Saturday night sounding. It looks like it's going to load. Awesome. All right, so this is a sounding over Mississippi and Alabama. We've got limited cape. This is what we call skinny cape in meteorology, just meaning not a ton of instability, but it's a classic HLSC setup, as we call it. Or excuse me, HSLC. I think I might have switched up some letters. So it sounded like the Philadelphia mayor there for ELGLES Eagles, whatever she said. Do the same thing. But yeah, high shear, low cape, HSLC. There we go. So we've got plenty of wind shear in the atmosphere. We're running SRH values. That's storm relative helicity in here from about 2 to 400. That's plenty enough to start spinning these storms, but we're lacking some instability. And that's the biggest question on Saturday. So for anyone watching down there, I'll go ahead and pull this up really quickly. This is the Storm Prediction Center outlook for Saturday. You can see Johnson City up here in the kind of Tri-Cities area of Tennessee. But the bigger severe weather threat going to be back to your south and to your west. Jackson, Monroe, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Montgomery, Birmingham, even potentially into the northwest Georgia area during the overnight of Saturday into Sunday. A lot of wind shear with this storm. The question will be, do we have the instability? Remember, it's February, so it'll be interesting. And I know a couple chasers personally who have already committed to chasing this one. We'll see if they get anything. It'll be interesting. By the way, I'm also going to add here kind of future plans on the channel. I definitely plan on doing more chasing on the channel this year. Hoping to finally get to Dixie Alley. I'm a big boy. I've got a driver's license and a car. So why I haven't made it out there yet, I don't know. I'm really an expert Carolina chaser, not so much further west in the jungles, but not that the Carolinas are particularly good chasing terrain either, but definitely plan on getting out here more this kind of later this year. And maybe Brady, we'll get you a plane ticket down here to Charlotte. We'll go together. How about it?
Yeah, one day for sure. I need to see some more tornadoes. Only one before, and it's a water spout in South Carolina, like we mentioned. So it's not
Nice.
too
Yeah.
great chasing terrain up here in the Northeast for sure. Anybody that lives up here knows that, no doubt.
All right. Let's see if we had any more questions. Probably did. I glossed over them.
We have TW
The
asking,
gaming
is
there.
there chance for winter weather in the South? General
So
question.
yeah,
But
yeah. The answer is yes for a couple reasons. One, the pattern looks good. Two, you never say never until April, really. We've gotten big snowstorms in the South in March before. Not to say we will this year, but climatologically speaking, it happens. So you cannot rule that out by any means. Talking about the potential, let me pull some stuff up on the fly here, and let's see if we can kind of do some fun stuff on the fly here. All right. That's the weekend storm. Let's see what this looks like for next week. All right, yeah. So the latest Euro ensembles, it's got a look to it. One that is actually pretty favorable for snow in the South. So here we go. This is by next week. This would be right around we'll say the 18th through the 23rd, that time frame. I know that's a big 5-day period, but that's the time frame I'm watching for a return to winter weather in the deep South. And when I say deep South, I mean like potentially Charlotte, Asheville, Raleigh, Nashville, maybe Atlanta, Birmingham, areas like that. Not the Gulf Coast, not another crazy January type event, but areas a little more climatologically that normally see at least one good snow a year. This is the thought from the Euro ensembles. We've got big high pressure to the north. That's our cold air source. And to the south, notice it's upticking a couple of low pressures, a classic kind of southern slider, maybe Miller A type event. We'll see if it climbs up the coast. Some of the models have hinted at that. But I mean, that's not a bad look, folks. We've got plenty of low pressure. Look at this. By next Wednesday night, low pressure right off the Carolina coast, cold air source to the north. That's a good overlap for the potential of some winter weather. Now, will it happen? Your guess is as good as mine. We're almost 10 days away, but the ensemble's looking pretty good. And if you look at the chance of at least an inch of snow falling out of it at that time frame, same thing. This is the Euro ensembles. Let's kind of skip ahead to next week. Notice how the chances get much higher in the South. Little Rock, Nashville, over to Virginia, even kind of the Charlotte, Raleigh, Greensboro area, up into Charlottesville, Blacksburg. That's an all right signal for snow. It's one of the better signals we've seen since the last time we saw snow in January. In fact, I would say it's the best signal we've seen since our last big January winter weather event down here in areas this far south. And this has the potential to be snow, has the potential to be ice. We'll show you the Euro run from this afternoon just to say we did. Why not? It shows that potential. And also, this storm could be a big one, too. Some of the upper level guidance has been suggesting that this could deepen pretty well or pretty significantly. So here's the Euro, gets the low pressure. Again, this is by next Wednesday or so. Starts deepening it here into the deep South, gets snow in the area. A little late on the kind of explosion of it, but notice it clips the Carolinas, gets some snow, and then kind of bombs out as it tries to pull up the coast. Just doesn't quite get to the northeast. But if we go back to a prior run, let's go to last night's run of the Euro. I think this one did bring it up the coast. Yeah, so here's the same storm, a run prior, and yeah, look at this one. I mean, it's a huge storm, major winter storm from the deep south all the way up to the northeast as a big nor'easter. Again, Not saying that's going to happen. We're just looking at model guidance here. It's one of the beauties of YouTube and live streams is we can do that without calling it a forecast because it's not. But
Context.
that's kind of a
Context,
time
Jim.
frame. Yeah, right. Context is important. But that's a time frame that we're watching. So Brady, you want to talk about that one a little bit?
Yeah, sure. We do have a 500 millibar height anomaly again. I think that would be a great tool, and maybe yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, yeah. Play it just a little bit back, like 216, 210 or something. Maybe a little bit further. Yeah. So I mean, we start looking at, I mean, just that setup at general. I mean, that's a pretty classic look there, like Gerald alluded to some. But just looking at 500 millibar height here, I think there's some classic signals here for, not only for Mid Atlantic Northeast, but even in southern places as well here, for a potential dynamic system to kind of drive up the coast potentially, and how much latitude to be able to gain. Kind of hard to say, because the tail end of the previous storm from this weekend is what's kind of going to put the cold air in place out of head. It's also what's going to prevent that thing from being able to cut likely as well. And you can see that high pressure there, big time negative NAO, meaning we have Greenland high latitude blocking in place, which is another classic sign we look for potential big snowstorms. Some western ridging in place, especially over Alaska. And the big thing we noticed too, as well, different from previous, past winter storm setup we had in the Gulf Coast, Gerald, is that Atlantic ridging, I would say, the extent of
Mm.
that as well, and also the stream separation between our two weekend storm and the one that comes in mid time next week. So those are some of the things when looking at differences from previously in the pattern. But there's certainly some classic signals here for, especially I would be really looking at mid Atlantic places as well right now, southern Northeast and into the mid South are some places that I'd be looking at really basically from southern New England down to the mid South. There's certainly going to be an opportunity here, and this wouldn't be just a small storm. This would be a dynamic storm probably as well, in this current pattern that we're in. If you have any more thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think dynamics is the key word here. I showed you the Euro run from overnight yesterday, showed that potential for a big storm. Something's brewing next week, and I've even mentioned in my videos. I think someone between this weekend storm and next week is going to get a blizzard and/or blizzard-like conditions. I know it's a big fancy word no one likes to use because of certain criteria. Forget the criteria of however many hours and however much snow. Someone's going to have a real mess on their hands. Whiteout conditions. It could be something in that ballpark is going to happen. I think between this weekend and next weekend. That's the time frame I'm watching. The track's going to shift further south. The storms are going to become stronger, and more people are going to get in on the action. Those are kind of the three big takeaways I'd say for that time period. That's my thoughts. And obviously, we can't go in on totals or anything like that right now. We'll figure that out over the next couple of days. But that's what I'm thinking.
Exciting times, Gerald. Exciting times
Yeah.
continue, and there's no clear signals. Obviously, it's hard to say longer range too, but I mean, there's no signs that that based on teleconnections we were talking about that opportunities are going to dwindle through February as well. So it's hard to pinpoint exactly how this plays out, and that's not a bad look there at 500 for the Eastern Seaboard as well. But there's no signs that we're going to cut off our opportunity for the potential for winter storms across the eastern U.S. here, as maybe even as we move into March potentially as well, just from the teleconnection standpoint. Again, those different signals around the world and the atmosphere that we look at that support the idea for at least cold and precipitation in the eastern U.S. So, like I said, Gerald, we're gonna be busy probably still through the remainder of the winter here.
Yeah, it's giving shades of January. Just a month later. It's kind of the same thing.
Indeed, indeed.
Um, a couple people asking, where do I think there will be a blizzard? So when I say that, again, context is important here. I'm not saying that we're going to have a huge swath of blizzard warnings, but what I am saying is I think somebody's going to get whiteout conditions. Maybe that's better. Blizzard-like whiteout conditions. Location-wise, again, folks, it's too soon for me to give you an exact location this weekend. I think someone in the Northeast has a chance. We talked about that. A lot of upper-level support for a strongly deepening low pressure. So maybe someone in there, specifically kind of upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, I would watch there into Maine. Next week, I think it's still anybody's game. Now, is there going to be a blizzard in Birmingham, Alabama? Are we going to have a repeat of the superstorm, storm of the century, 1993? Probably not. In fact, I'll go ahead and say not. But I think someone has the chance, especially if that storm rides up the coast into the Northeast. Then I think we really increase the chance of some sort of, a big, more blizzard-like storm at least. And it's been one of those things, Brady. This year, we've had plenty of snowstorms in the Northeast and the East as a whole, but we've been missing kind of that classic bombogenesis up the coast, 950 low that just clobbers someone. That's kind of been the missing ingredient this winter, I would say. And we're getting to about that time that it should be coming if it's gonna.
Yeah, believe me, my mentions have been letting me know that we have not received that big time snowstorm yet. All in fun, but I
Right.
have been let know, man. When's the big snowstorm? And I'm like, hopefully soon. I hope I hope so for your sake and my sake. But what I would say too about this winter, very spread out across all different areas receiving snow. Like we're seeing, Illinois is about to start. Chicago area is going to start to see their snow for this winter upcoming here. We've seen the Gulf Coast seen their snow. We've seen the Southeast have a multiple different opportunities here. Really three if you think about it. If that you include that December one there in Charlotte. And then the
Yeah.
Northeast has had many opportunities too with light to moderate snow events. So it's been very spread out, and that's at least a good thing. Even though we haven't had a big winter for snow lovers, a lot of people have seen the opportunity to at least get snowstorms, even if not major. Obviously, the Gulf Coast saw their biggest in history for some people,
Right.
so case for them. But here in the Northeast and Mid Atlantic, we haven't seen that one major storm yet, but we've certainly done pretty well, and there's going to continue to be opportunities here going forward. So if we do see that big one this weekend and into next week, there are certainly some opportunities for that from the Northeast. And I believe we got a super chat if you want to read that off.
Yeah, pretty big one from Keith. Thank you so much, Keith. Says, still wondering how next week looks for that storm near the 20th. That's what we're talking about right here, everyone. We're headed to Montreal for a few days just after that storm. Um, yeah, Keith, let me know where you're watching from. I know you said you're going to Montreal, but if you're going after the storm, then definitely it might impact your travel there. So let us know where you're watching from. Yeah, again, I think it could be a big one. It's not a guarantee at all. It's not, set in stone or anything, but the signs are there. Also, my buddy Mitch West, he's been clapping or yapping or whatever you want to say for a couple weeks now, saying his gut tells him something big's coming later in February. You get Mitch West's gut, you get the teleconnections, a negative NAO, phase 8 in the MJO, and an ensemble look like this. Something's got to happen, right? Like, I don't know what else to say. But yeah, it looks interesting. And again, thank you so much, Keith. That's a pretty big time super chat there. All right. I did want to show some of the other ensembles out of this one. I don't think we looked at the GFS ensembles. We looked at the Euro for snow. Actually, since Keith was so kind to give us such a big super chat, let's throw everyone a bone here and show you the 18Z GFS, a little bit of a happy hour run for our folks in the Southeast. So we'll take a quick break from everything happening elsewhere and talk about it. All right, so here's the storm next week. Here it is on the GFS. This is the weekend storm. And speaking of further south, actually, before we get there, yeah, look how much further south this is on the 18Z GFS compared to the Euro, Brady.
Yeah, that's there's still some discrepancy with this weekend storm for sure. Like I said, at least a front end thump opportunity for this weekend. And actually, like I was saying, new Euro AI run just came out, so I was looking at while you were talking. And again, back-to-back runs here showing that interesting potential for maybe front end thump, even backside snow. That's always scary when we're talking about backside snow with dry air, but there's certainly an opportunity for significant snow this weekend, and I would favor the interior just for now, given what we have in model guidance. But I would say there's definitely some like there's a lot of mixed signals here on the ensembles for spread for this weekend. So don't assume we're locked in quite yet. And just models are tools. That's what we got to remember. They're not the forecast. They are tools, and it's up to people like you and me then to decipher what they're showing. And that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, GFS though, big storm. Excuse me. So you can definitely see it riding up the coast there. That's just this weekend storm. Again, all the craziness we're talking about, that would be this storm on the GFS. Watch it dive south next Monday, Tuesday. This is into Wednesday. Gets a snowstorm for North Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, even northern Mississippi, Alabama, up into Virginia, strengthens up the Carolina coast a little bit, and then a secondary wave comes, and all this within 240 hours. So we're not talking crazy fantasy land. Now, is that going to happen like that? I can guarantee it's not going to happen exactly like that, but showing the potential nonetheless. And then again, you notice it doesn't ride up the coast. Brady, you want to talk a little bit? Actually, before we do that, I think Keith said where he was watching from, so I do want to mention that really quickly. He
Nashua, New
says,
Hampshire. Yep.
yeah, Nashua, New Hampshire. Awesome. So, yeah, very active time for you, Keith. You got this weekend. This could be a big storm. Next week could be big. Definitely kind of a mess. And even the tomorrow storm, probably going to get something out of that one. So, definitely good to hear. Or if you're a snow lover, that is at least. Maybe not so much if you're trying to go to go to Montreal. It might cause problems. But are you? I guess you could you drive to Montreal from there? I don't know how far. Where is Montreal? The
I'm
one next to
New
Detroit,
Hampshire.
or is that one?
Montreal's just north of the Champlain Valley up there in Vermont. That's probably at least 3-4 hours away. So not too far, but it is at least a little bit of a drive from New Hampshire.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know if you plan on driving there. I heard Canada, immediately thought flying just because I live in Charlotte, but I guess you could drive there. Why not, right, Keith? So definitely play it safe if you are. You can see a lot of snow
Yeah, they just
just on
got
the
hit
way.
well too. Nashua this weekend, they had about 6 to 10 inches in southern New Hampshire. So Heath probably just got
Nice.
some fresh snowpack this weekend.
Yeah, and we us down south appreciate that fresh snowpack. So hopefully
Yes.
that'll keep it a little bit higher chance for us getting snow later on this month. But I forget what I was going to say, Brady. I was going to throw something to you. I had something I wanted you to talk about. Oh yeah,
I know you.
uh,
You were. Yes.
yeah. You want to talk a little bit about? So for example, the Euro from overnight yesterday had a big storm riding up the coast. The GFS from 18Z shows the same storm, but it doesn't quite ride up the coast. What's kind of the changing factor here in the models? What would give this shot or this storm a better shot of moving up the coast instead of just being a mid-south storm?
Couple things. If you don't mind going back to 500 Vort and showing that, and while you pull that up, I will say again, I was looking at the latest Euro AI rolling out. Last few runs now, Euro AI is kind of starting to get on board with next week's storm as well. So Euro AI is one of our, or I think is one of our better performing models currently.
It's done
Just from
really well, kind of scarily
yeah,
well.
it's done very, very well. So and that's where we're trending with models. So this isn't the scary AI, folks. Don't worry. This is the good version of AI that's going to help us in the weather world,
Yeah,
hopefully.
help
So
take my job.
that's the good news here. You can't ever replace us, Gerald. Though we're the
No,
forecaster.
right. I
That's why everybody's in here right now for the at least the human element of the forecast and to highlight the potential. So that's where we come into
absolutely.
play.
Kind of a hot take for me, and I might just say this because I'm on the communication side of meteorology here. I think it's more likely the AI takes the SPC's job before it takes my job of telling you what the forecast is. I think a robot can come up with a pretty good forecast, like the Euro AI is showing, but will always need to be some sort of human connection. Imagine during a tornado outbreak. James Spann is a great example. James Spann is going to get to you way better than a robot ever could even pretend in terms of telling you what's happening and how to prepare, and it really adds that emotional connection. So that's my thought on the future of meteorology. Just a little sprinkle of maybe some pizzazz and some tea in there for my friends on the operational side who constantly tell me that news stations won't exist and YouTube won't exist 10 years down the road. We'll see. I think it's more likely their jobs won't exist. Hopefully everyone keeps their job though, right? That'll be that's the hope. But it'll be interesting to see how AI plans out or plays out for sure.
Indeed, indeed. So yeah, so while Gerald and I scatterbrain our thoughts as usual, what I was
Right.
gonna say is, the big key is if you slide. So Gerald's showing the weekend storm, and Gerald, if you play that through and show how it ramps up, it's really the confluence tail on the backside. That's what sets the stage. Look, you see that lobe of the PV in place too. That cold air is in place out ahead. So cold air, I don't think is going to be a problem, especially for the Northeast and the Mid Atlantic here with next week. And you may be wondering, why are you talking about, you say it's hard to forecast. How can you talk about the storm so far out? Well, the signals are there, and there's strong ensemble support as well and guidance. And just from a meteorological perspective, from us looking at it, there are some signs here that suggest a dynamic storm is potentially going to be happening across the central in eastern U.S. And so here's where the keys start playing into fact. And if you go back to 500 height anomaly for a second as well, the key here is so you see that storm ramped up there in the North Atlantic. That is our weekend storm that's coming through the across all of the eastern U.S. right now. And then as that moves through, here's what the key is. So for y'all wondering, what's the difference between this being a southern slider or maybe a southern storm, but works up the coast into the mid-Atlantic as well? It's gonna be there's a couple of different factors, I will say. The one in particular, we call it stream separation, meaning the separation between our two storms and how much ridging can build back in the Atlantic. That would allow for a storm to drive more up the coast versus kind of slide out. And then the other thing we would look for then also is that pressing from the storm before. So if that storm before is going to press further down to the south, that's going to shunt that upper level energy further south. That would allow southern people to get involved for snow in more mid Atlantic versus northeast and New England. So this is what could give an opportunity then for places, for southern places. What you would want to see is continue to strengthen the confluence tail from the previous storm. That way you can get a big snowstorm potentially for southern places, but also it can ride up the coast maybe. So maybe southern, Gerald, southern places, mid Atlantic, northeast could all get involved in this potentially. There's certainly the potential here, and we definitely have the ensemble support suggesting that as well right now. That was
Yeah,
long
it's
winded, but a lot of different factors that are playing into next week, especially so far out, and you can kind of see Gerald playing it out there. I
yeah,
mean, just
this
like
is the overnight Euro from yesterday. This is the one that had the big storm up the coast. Again, notice what happens is our original storm basically gets out of here sooner, and that creates an easier pathway for the next storm to move through. Basically, is what Brady was mentioning there. Where the GFS, on the other hand, kind of leaves that back end tail that he was talking about. You can kind of see it here. That kind of suppresses the next storm and keeps it a little bit further south. So it'll be interesting to see what unfolds. But everyone in the East still in the game for sure for next week.
you get the Euro AI, Gerald, as well on Pivotal there?
Yeah, I do. 18Z is the latest. I guess that's the
Yeah,
latest in general,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
it
Yeah.
does.
You want
18Z showed a big one. Showed an example of how you could get like southern places still involved, and also um, into the Northeast as well. It was pretty classic. Pr- Pretty classic setup there. Yeah.
awesome. Let's see. Now, unfortunately, the Euro AI doesn't have a pretty like preset map, everybody. Um, but I can show you the upper levels.
You can kind of get the picture there. You can
Yeah,
see
yeah. It rides right up the coast.
deep dig of the trough amplifies, so that's a way you would get southern places, maybe into the Carolina, especially
Hmm.
into the Appalachians up there, maybe more Western Carolinas, and then into the Mid Atlantic and Northeast. For that's kind of your best overall solution if you want to get southern places involved, and
Yeah.
also create a big snowstorm for more people in the Mid Atlantic and Northeast.
I'm pulling it up on Tropical Tidbits really quickly because I think they have an actual. Yeah, they've got like a surface map which will show it a little bit better for everybody. Um, All right. Yeah. So let's show this to everyone on here. This is the latest Euro AI. And again, folks, this is not a La La Land model. This model is done very well. And here's a storm. Yeah. Wow. That's good. Right along the Gulf Coast develops next Wednesday. Kind of borderline Miller being away. You can kind of see two lobes of um, low pressure, one on the western side of the Alps, another along the coast. So that might be a little bit more maybe an icy problem in the Carolinas if that were to happen. But then it just kind of bombs out up the coast. Yeah, and talk about blizzard potential. Euro AI's got it. I mean, that's what 969 millibar low right over Nova Scotia. So maybe not quite in the United States, but close enough. That'd be a big one, definitely, Brady. That's what you want. If you want a big storm, that's the look you want for sure.
Yeah,
And I
the
guess what we can
500
do
millibar
is
height anomaly that was so classic too on that run as well. That was, I mean, it couldn't have been more classic for a Mid Atlantic Northeast snowstorm. And again, we're talking about this. It's 200 hours out, so your AI typically will start getting better once it gets into that 5-6 day range. We'll see a little bit more consistency. So I mean, but you can see that. I mean, you can see that, Gerald. That's a pretty classic setup there for a major snowstorm. If we were to kind of see this, start developing here, and the good news is, even if you weren't to get one in the south, you could have another. There could be more opportunities after that as well, especially if we saw a storm right up the coast. That would present the opportunity for southeastern places to maybe get involved as well.
Yeah, I think after this weekend through the end of February is loaded up the pattern. I think anytime in that period, anybody east of the Rockies and north of I-10, we'll say, has a shot at some sort of wintry weather. Um, so
Absolutely,
yeah, that's good stuff.
absolutely, yeah.
Alrighty. Any other little questions here? If not, then I know you've got your own things to do, Brady. So we'll probably end it here in just a moment. But we'll give a couple more minutes for any last second questions to filter in. Or if anybody wants to give some last little second snow reports and why we do that, we can go ahead and take a little look at ongoing radar. Why we sit here and wait. In fact, let's kind of look at some fancy radar up here into the Northeast. See what we got going on.
We have more snow reports. I know New York City, Jersey. I'm seeing some actual accumulating snow reports too. People blowing up my X feed currently with up there. So it's definitely starting to accumulate up there by New York City. Even though it's lighter on radar, it's accumulating New York City, Long Island, and into Jersey as well. We're seeing some snow reports, seeing some 2-3 inch reports up there in southern Jersey as well. So it's getting going for them.
Yeah, it looks like a nice little band here just north of Philly right now, setting up. Might be that frontogenesis that we talked about, kind of starting to right into here.
It
I
is.
see
You
some of
could
those
see it
heavy returns.
actually. The latest frame, you don't have to pull it up, but the latest frame of SPC and mesoanalysis showed that 700 millibar FGen organizing more up there by Jersey, New York City, and Long Island. So again, it might be a close call up there for them tonight, but I'm pretty confident that at least Long Island is going to be able to get at least 2, 3, 4 inches of snow tonight across that area at least, maybe
Yeah, and
over
it
four
looks
potentially.
yeah, looks a little bit further north than the models had, so definitely could help out New York City, and because if we kind of just look at the general track of it, if not New York City, then at least Southern Long Island should probably get in on that. I would think
Hmm.
so.
Especially
All right,
southeastern Long Island as well. Yeah, and then coastal southern New England could be a close call for some accumulating snow. And then for anybody that lives on the special islands up there in Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard, you'll be seeing some accumulating snow later on tonight as well into early tomorrow morning. So you'll get into the action too. Unfortunately, for places further north like Boston, Worcester, as we call it up here,
Worcester.
into Providence. Unfortunately, no accumulating snow out of this event for people up there.
Yeah. A quick question in here. I was going to answer. Somebody said they worry about the southeast ridge. Well, the good news is I think the southeast ridge gets beaten down after this weekend. Again, this weekend storm should kind of kick it out of here for at least a little bit. But that has been the problem the past week or two in the Carolinas. That's why we're dealing with like 30 and 37 and rain at my place in Charlotte right now instead of snow or ice. Is that southeast ridge? Um, Somebody says, "Great live, guys. Thank you." Well, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate that. Do. I thought
Two
there was another
inches in
question. I saw that was good.
West of Baltimore, World Zero Guide. Someone reporting snow for us there. So that's a good
Awesome.
snow report we got out of there. I think Northern Maryland might have gotten a little bit shafted, unfortunately, today, but still good for DC.
Yeah, yeah. I had a couple of comments about that.
That's what happens when you get bigger. That's when you know you've made it, Gerald. So
I had one comment today that was just insane. Somebody basically wrote me a novel about how how terrible we are at our job and how we should give up. It's definitely an
and
industry you got to have a little bit of tough skin for, thick skin.
you get used to it after a while. Once you get exposed to it,
Yeah,
it's better to get
yeah.
exposed to it from a young age.
Uh,
It's your pre-bullying phase right there. And then
right.
when all the people want to crap all over you, just get used to it. So we got a lot of people, a lot of different people from a lot of different areas that follow us, and they expect us to get their backyard 100% correct. And it's like we're trying. I mean, we're
Right.
giving it
And
all we
I'll,
got for you. It's not that
yeah.
easy, man. We're trying. I
Yeah,
promise. We want to get
it's
it
true.
right for you.
And I'll add even like obviously the weather, these videos are very important for especially during like severe weather. The weather becomes more serious and it's more like, okay, we got to really talk about neighborhoods and stuff. But when we're talking about like snowstorms, obviously yes, those are impactful, but these are more fun videos than like serious videos. I mean, granted, yeah, like don't drive in the snow, don't drive in the ice, power outages, things like that matter. But when we're talking about a frontogenesis band that's going to drop a couple of inches of snow in Philly, like this is a fun topic. This isn't like everyone shelter down and you know, fear for your lives. So everyone just
Indeed.
calm down. It's gonna be okay. We're gonna make it through. I promise. So
Snow is definitely more lighthearted than hurricanes and severe weather for sure. So absolutely.
absolutely.
We have another snow report to Middletown, New Jersey. Someone said in the chat about an inch of snow, and then we also had. I don't know. That was it. Or do we had a question? Do you think Long Island can see 5 inches of snow? Parts of Long Island, I think, absolutely are in play to see at least 4 or 5 inches of snow, very much so overnight tonight. I can't guarantee you specifically will see 4 or 5 inches of snow, but the opportunity for I think at least 3 to 6 inches of snow across a lot of Long Island is definitely on play tonight for um, whoever asked that. Something the gaming asked that.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Don Wall says, Dad used to say, if people ain't talking about you, and you ain't doing nothing. I like that. You know, maybe I'll get that engraved or something. I like that. That's a good saying. Put that right above my desk right here.
On a banner on the bottom of the live stream. Get some good
Ah,
comments.
there you go. There you go. Yeah. I definitely need to do a little bit of some revamping on the channel. Some of y'all might have noticed I changed my profile picture on the channel. It used to just be like my logo, but I threw me on there. Figured maybe, I don't know, a couple of, I know Ryan Hall, Max Velocity, some of the other bigger YouTubers, they have like a picture of them. And I figured a little picture of me in the snow. Why not? That's fun. So definitely going to do a little bit of revamping on the live too, maybe redo some graphics. I want to do channel memberships. Folks, it has been ridiculous the past week. It's like every time I turn in a homework assignment, they hand me 3 more. It's like I don't even want to turn them in anymore. It's like it's just going to give me more to do. So I'm in the works of trying to get memberships on the channel, and those will be great for the lives. Members will get priority questions answered. They'll have stickers, little stickers you can put in the chat, some custom ones that I'm working on. So I got fun stuff planned for the channel. And again, I don't want to let up come. Sorry, I don't want to let up come spring season. I was reading something. So we're gonna try to do lives for severe weather. I think maybe this Saturday night might go live and talk about the snow and the severe weather all at the same time. And just exciting times on the channel. But cross 36,000 a day. We're trying to get Brady to 1,000 again. Everybody, if you haven't already, go ahead and get him there. Go ahead and subscribe to his channel. Linked in the chat. So yeah, exciting stuff. Brady, you want to talk a little bit about your channel, by the way, and kind of what you plan on doing? I haven't really given you time to do that before. So you've got about 200 people here that you can share your heart with.
That's not too necessary, but I do appreciate it. Yeah, again, listen, for people that really love weather, you love meteorology, and you're very curious about the forecast coming up, and you like that you're very curious about that in-depth analysis. That's what we do here, and I try to simplify it as much as possible. Again, I really had to self-teach a lot of this stuff to myself. Taken some classes before on this, but really self-taught a lot of this to myself, and so I try to explain those thoughts over to you guys and try to help you understand it. And I'm trying to get away from all the BS that goes on with the weather community, especially in YouTube. And a lot of people clickbait, and a lot of people try to just get you to tune into your video. For me, it's really more important to break down my passion. I'm so passionate about this. Only psychos stay up all night to watch a snowstorm. That's me.
Right.
I think Gerald's done that before as well, many times. And so it's really just a passion. I got nothing to hide. I'm I don't plan on making really too much money off of this. It'd be nice if I did, but I just genuinely love it. I'm going to be breaking this down regardless of whether or not people tune in. And so if you wanted more of that weather analysis, that's kind of what I do. So you can speak to it more, Gerald. It's so much of a passion project is what this stuff is. So, and we get away. Yeah, I know you and I like to get away more from, the general breakdowns of, the models, show those snow totals and get people all excited and hyped when it's not accurate. And we pride ourselves more on the analysis, especially on my channel. We want to give you good information and break down what might happen, not the clickbait crap that goes on across a lot of people in YouTube. And so yeah, that's what I do here. And I know you work hard too at giving people analysis for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And just talking about the clickbait thing a little bit too. I'll get people sometimes that'll click on my videos and be like, "Oh, clickbait, folks." I'm never gonna put something in a title that is just wrong or false. Okay, if I think a blizzard's possible, that's genuinely what I think. Also, another thing though to add, thumbnails are not forecasts. I think some people look at a thumbnail and they think that that's the forecast. You have to watch the video for a forecast. So yes, there is a sense of you have to click on it to get the forecast, but it's not clicking on it to like bait you in. Where I told you a massive snowstorm's coming, and then you click on it, I'm like, well, it's gonna be rainy this week. Like that's not what that is. Definitely, the clickbait thing has always been big. Also with the analysis stuff, that's something that I love with these lives is we can go and break this stuff down. I have thought about in the future making my videos a little bit shorter, closer to like 15, 20 minutes, just to kind of give you more of the quick hitting stuff, excuse me, and then do these lives as more of the breakdown. But I'll never change in the fact that I always love breaking down the weather. I love talking about jet streaks and vorticity and all these fancy terms, and I'll always do that. And Brady is the same way. So definitely one to follow. So
Yep. I'll
all right.
probably be live tonight as well after for those curious. We'll do late. We do a lot of late night streams, and I'm not gonna lie, we go longer than Gerald does. We go way in depth, but it allows you. I'm not as big as Gerald, so I get to go. I get to see more of your comments as a result, and we give a lot of attention. If you have a question about something specific, we break it down, and I also relay my thoughts. So that's just the close that up as well. I appreciate it,
Yeah.
Gerald. Thank you.
Yeah. And with that said, we'll go ahead and into here. So thank you, everybody. Again, go ahead, like the stream if you haven't already. That'll help more people see it after the fact. Subscribe to my channel, Brady's channel. Hit the bell for the latest notifications and come back for the next live, potentially tomorrow night, maybe, question mark, maybe Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. I'll try to hit the ground running this week. So we'll obviously keep doing the morning videos and add some evening lives in there as well. Alrighty, folks, y'all have a great one. Stay safe, stay warm, and see you all next time.